wide, seeking fortune fair.
So when I was working on the house, I helped out with trying to figure out the formula for what is it called? Tamped earth? Rammed earth? The rammed earth wall for the edge of the house, or the gate. And then I also, when I came back during the summer, I helped with unloading wood and doing measurements and things like that.
Right. What did I do while I was working on the house? I was working on the gate, as well as curing and preparing wood.
Hi, my name's Olivia. I'm a junior, and I went on the China Folk House retreat last year and was a part of its first session. So the week that I went, nothing had really been built yet, so it was definitely the early stages of this project. And when we first arrived, the wood hadn't been touched since its arrival in the US. So I was put in a group with some other people, and we were tasked with curing, organizing, and treating the pieces of wood. And yeah, that was a really special experience for me because it was essentially laying the foundation for what would be the structure of the house.
Up and down the two coastlines, I've traveled everywhere, from Portland east to Portland west, back along the line. I'm going now.
I mean, I think that most of the things that I did at the China Workhouse stood out to me in some one way or another, just because they were new. I had not had experiences, that is, where I was doing a lot of the things that we were doing at China House. I, had never even really unloaded wood from a truck, much less used clay and earth and sand to find mixtures to build walls for. So yeah.
Was there anything that I did that stood out to me? I think, a lot of things stood out to me because it was a very different experience than I've usually had. I've never really built a house before or worked on a project like that. But one of the things that especially stood out to me was the intricacy of the carvings on, the intricacy of the pieces of the house. How well crafted they were, and there's some incredible carved animals, and it was just really incredible.
The thing that stood out to me was the technique that was used to build this house. The week that I was there, I spent a lot of time working with the wood pieces, so I was initially surprised that there were going to be no nails holding these pieces together. But when I found out that the technique involved fitting together these pieces more like a puzzle, that kind of stuck with me for the entirety of my trip, just because it was such a unique process, and the fact that we could still stay true to the original techniques that were used to build this house. I think that's something that's really special.
Now to a place that's best, that old hometown of mine. 8 more miles in Louisville will come into my view. 8 more miles on this old road.
Some highlights from the experience. I mean, I think that my highlight from both of the China-related programs I've been on with the Civil Friends School has 100% been the connections and the communities that are formed around John Flower and through the China programs. I think that the connections I've made are just invaluable, and I really, really cherish the opportunity to further them and to make connections with new generations of people that Mr. Flower is bringing together. I just think that these programs are just so important and really help to build the foundation in many ways of the Civil community and really show what Civil is about.
Were there any highlights of this experience? I'd say the highlight was definitely the community that was formed there. I found that living in close quarters with all the people involved, with all the students involved, really added to the sense of community. We all woke up and were around each other, and we all ate breakfast together and ate dinner and ate our meals together, all such. I found that was really fun. It really added to the experience.
I'll never more be blue. I knew someday that I'd come back, knew it from the start. 8 more miles to Louisville, the hometown of my heart.
I mean, I think the biggest takeaway from my experience was that this is a really huge project. And it's going to take a lot of hands, and it's going to take a lot of effort if we want to make any progress on it, and definitely if you want to get it done. It's such an important thing, I think, for us to continue working on the China House just because of the educational value that it holds, the cultural value, and especially at this time, when we're seeing tensions between the U.S. and China, which every day seem to increase, especially now with coronavirus. I think it's important to have these relics of different cultures available to, our youth, and to kind of bridge these connections and disconnections, I guess is the better word, to bridge the disconnects between the cultures and establish deeper understanding and enrich our lives through the process.
So anything that I took away from my experience? I'd say the main takeaway is that building a house is a pretty monumental ordeal. And that you definitely aren't going to get the whole thing done in 2 weeks, but you have to stay persistent and you have to keep working on it.
If someone were to ask me if they should work on the Fieldhouse project, I 100% would recommend that they do so. I think that, a lot of skills are built through it, whether it be through manual labor, or just, learning how to connect with different cultures when you're so far away from them. And also, I just think that, once again, that the community that is built through these kinds of projects and through these kinds of programs is just so tight-knit and profound. And people come back for years just because it is such an important part of their lives, and it has become integral to, their high school experience, and a big defining factor in how they perceive the world around them, and in many ways themselves.
What I say if someone asked me if they should work on the house project, I would definitely recommend it. It's a great experience. It was a lot of fun for me to have, and especially the community that was established, that I created with the people who were also on the trip with me. It was really, really valuable. I really enjoyed it.
If someone asked me if they should work on this project, I would definitely say yes, 100%. This whole experience was the highlight of my summer last year. I learned so much about the culture, the history, and the techniques that surround this house. And I also think there's no other project that allows students to really be a part of every part of the building process. I feel like that's something that's unique to this project. So yeah, if anyone is thinking of doing this or has the opportunity to do this, I would definitely say yes.
Another takeaway that I had from the experience, and I think this came later along, having spoken to Mr. Flower afterwards and having visited the house again after, most kids had stopped going just to help with some final things over the summer. I think that there's a really important connection that is established not only between the Civil Friends School and the Folk House, but also the community in the area in which we're working, surrounding the Friends Wilderness Center in West Virginia and the Folk House. I think the enthusiasm of local craftsmen to help with the house and to put in their time and their passion in really realizing this dream of ours is really profound. Just because I think it shows how things like this really help to bring a much, much larger community into the picture, because you now have Cibao, you now have the community in which the house has been relocated, but you also have, the house's roots and that culture and that community. So the house is really just a really central point like a Venn diagram where everything comes together. It's like a melting pot, and I think that's really beautiful.
Hey everyone, just wanted to give a quick thanks to Anna Evanesian, Alex Evanesian, and Olivia Song for talking about their experiences on working on the house. It means a lot, and be prepared for more of these kinds of student videos.